Hi, Talking Cars fans. We'll be shooting an episode of the podcast live at the 2019 LA Auto Show on Friday, November 22nd between 10 a.m. and noon, and we would love to have you in our audience. To join us, email talkingcars@consumer.org by Friday, November 15th, and let us know if you'd like to attend. You'll be able to ask questions of our experts, and as a special benefit, you'll receive free admission to the LA Auto Show. All you have to do is get yourself to the Los Angeles Convention Center. Tickets are first come, first served, so email us today. We'd love to see you there.
We offer our first impressions of the all-new 2020 Lincoln Corsair SUV. Then we discuss why cars don't protect women as well in crashes. And finally, we answer questions from the audience. This week on Talking Cars. Hey, welcome back. I'm Keith Barry.
I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
I'm Emily Thomas.
And that's Dr. Emily Thomas.
It is.
Yes, so we're really glad to have Emily on the podcast with us. You might recognize her from the opening credits, but
Yeah,
Emily,
I've been on the show for a really long time, actually.
Well,
every week, actually. So you're here because one of the coolest things I think about CR is that we have these like brilliant people who work with us who are preeminent experts in their field, and they can help the writers like me make our work better because we don't have to necessarily go find a source. We just ask someone. Exactly. Yeah. I'm over in your side of the office all the time.
I thought it was the chocolate that brought you over.
It is that sometimes. So Emily, why don't you tell us about what you do at CR?
So I am the crash expert on the child seats team. And so basically I oversee the crash protection performance of our evaluation and kind of the in-house crash expert in general for automotive safety. I also, on the vehicle side, do the rear seat evaluation of child seat fit and looking at different safety aspects in the vehicle that affect rear occupants. So that's kind of my wheelhouse.
And both of you have a background in crash and safety and automotive safety. And that's kind of the reason why we're here. There's been a lot of news this week. But I think
we're going to narrow it to
one thing, which is a topic which I think we all think is CR think is really important, and it's a topic that isn't necessarily new. In fact, it's 4 decades old.
Right.
But the fact we're still talking about it is the reason why we have to talk about it. So this week, CR published a report looking at crash testing, and what who gets hurt in crashes when they happen, and how some people get hurt more than others. So, Jen, do you want to sort of walk us through some of the stats there?
Sure. So first of all, Keith's being modest because he wrote the story and it's awesome.
With a lot of help.
With a lot of help.
Yep.
But it's on consumerreports.org. It's a great read. But the reason, you said it's 4 decades in the making, but why it's coming up again is there's some new data from the University of Virginia that points out that the odds of females being injured in frontal crashes when they're in the driver's seat or the front passenger seat are 73% greater than the odds of their male counterparts being
So if a crash happens, a female front vehicle occupant who's wearing a seatbelt, 73% more likely to sustain an injury than a male.
Her odds of being injured are 73%.
Same car, same type of crash, same issues.
Right. And the idea is, and the theory is, first of all, let me say, crash testing has benefited all of us.
Yes,
absolutely. A lot of the occupant protection, be it seatbelt pretensioners, load limiters, airbags, crumple zone, have benefited it all. And much of that has been from crash testing. But the theory is that are women being underrepresented in the crash testing, be it the federal government, the insurance institute, whoever's doing it, because the dummy is a male dummy. It represents a 50th percentile. The dummy that's used most often is that 50th percentile male.
So an average male, at least an average male for the 1970s. Yeah.
Right.
So when the automakers are doing designs and countermeasures to protect occupants, are they more geared toward men? And thus this data that's saying women may be put at more risk. And are the dummies really representative of women?
So to back it up a little bit, if we talk about what dummies are available to us, right? So in the dummy family, you really have the 50th percentile male, which is kind of used to represent the average person.
Right.
Not even just the average male anymore.
Yeah.
And when the dummy was first introduced, that made sense because at that time, the people that were dying in motor vehicle crashes were men, because men were driving to work, men were the ones.
We're going back
This was
to
the
like
1960s.
the 70s
right.
or
So
70s.
they were the ones transporting people around, and so they were the ones that were getting injured
made
in
sense.
that front.
And a lot of the
driver.
data came from the military as well, too, where
Exactly.
the data they had was based on male bodies.
Right. So then, after we have the 50th percentile male, they wanted to expand the dummy family, and they did. But in that expansion, there were some compromises that got made. So we ended up with things like the 95th percentile male, we got the 5th percentile female, and we got some pediatric dummies.
So very large man,
Very large man,
very small.
very small. So really, the 5th percentile female is exactly what it sounds like. It represents 5% of the female population, the lower 5% in terms of height and weight. So the outside dimensions are supposed to be representative, but even there, they didn't use female data. They scaled.
Keith's point.
They scaled the average man down to be the size of 5% of women, small women.
Right. And that's where they're finding the differences, right?
And like the 5th percentile female is also really commonly used as a replacement for, your 12 to 13-year-old child in crash testing.
Very small.
So it's a very small statured woman. It's 4'11" and 108 pounds.
Very small.
Yes.
That's a very petite dummy,
Yes.
It's a very petite woman who also can sit in place as a 12 to 13-year-old child in crash testing. So that kind of gives you an idea as to how it's doing double duty, but that it's not really representative of women at large in the population, right? And so that's the challenge, is that, in the crash test world, we have this one dummy who's supposed to represent everybody.
Right.
But if you even look at this table here, I'm probably the shortest. I'm probably the closest to the 5th percentile dummy, at least by height.
Right.
But obviously, there are differences between me and Keith and Jen and Keith that are more than just our size.
Oh,
right?
yeah. The list is way long.
So this is that question that I get, which is a lot of people say, well, how come you can't just make a one-size-fits-all dummy? And I think people think of dummies as like mannequins. They think of them as I've learned from you, I've learned words like biofidelity and why don't you explain to everyone else?
So I guess we'll start with the words you threw out that nobody knows. So biofidelic means anything that you're trying to do in the automotive industry when you're trying to represent humans, right? You want it to be biofidelic. You want it to best represent the actual living form that it's supposed to be a surrogate for. So if you have a crash test dummy, it's supposed to be representing people. So there are a bunch of calibrations and a bunch of testing that is done to ensure that this crash test dummy is going to perform in a way that is most representative of how a human body would perform in a crash. And so there's years of research that has gone into this. The challenge is that a lot of that research, again, is either based off of males, right? And so once again, you have now these male material properties that are being used to calibrate and validate these physical crash test dummies that are now supposed to represent both men and women.
Right.
But biomechanically, that's not true. We're very different. The differences between us include our bone geometry, they include the bone density. It includes just even the material properties between our tendons and our ligaments and how our bones respond to the external forces that are being applied to them. So there's all of these really important...
So it's not just size.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not just size. There's a lot of really important details that determine how my body is going to react differently in a crash because of how it's built versus how your body is going to react in a crash.
Right.
And this idea that crash test dummies they're almost there as a ballast. They're just there to sit in a spot, be the right outside size, and be weight, and be in a crash test.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
not
much
that.
more than that.
And the fact that the thing which really gets to me is that there are 50% of drivers are female.
Right.
50% of the population is female in the United States. And the fact that we don't have that, we just assume that these are sort of outliers. Statistically speaking, that can't be the case.
Right.
And I spoke to
I was saying science in this case didn't quite keep up with society. Women are in the driver's seat, half the time at least, and we didn't quite get there. And that was kind of the call to action in that we need this.
And we've known about this.
Representative
with
female.
CR I'm very proud of the article we did.
Yeah, you did
but
a great job.
if you look, you can find similar articles from earlier this year, 2014, 2011, the 1980s. CR wrote about it in the 1970s and said, with these new crash test dummies, do they really represent everybody in an archival issue?
Yeah.
And nothing has happened, which is
So nothing has happened maybe in the physical crash test world. So where there have been strides is in this world of computer simulations, right? So the automotive industry has started to use computer simulations to be able to test out their vehicles, test out their safety equipment before doing physical crash testing. Because physical crash testing is really expensive, right? And it takes super long to set
you
up.
literally have to,
Yes.
they're like $1 million, and then you have to buy the car, crash the car.
Exactly. So it's a very tedious and very expensive ordeal. So the beauty of computer simulations is that you can run a bunch of different tests, do like this whole like array of testing, right, to get a sense as to how the vehicle will perform, how the injury metrics will come out. And so in that regard, there are some automotive manufacturers that have actually created female human body models. Using actual female, material property data, the stuff that we talked about before, bone density, differences in ligament and tendons, and bone geometry, and they've implemented that into the models themselves. So I think like Volvo has this Ava model, which is like
that's one example, right?
Right, it's one example.
It's a
Toyota.
it's a sort of it's a computer model of a 50th percentile female for rear impacts.
Yeah, so Volvo's not the only one who's done this. Other manufacturers have also done something similar. And that's a great thing because it means that we're trying to address the problem, but we need to do even more. And so ideally, we would see NHTSA, put out a call for us to have a physical crash test dummy that represents the average female, and doing so would put out money for research so we can get the data that we need. But ultimately, we need to start now. Because if we don't, we're going to be in the same boat like another 5-10 years from now.
We started
I don't want to have to
then.
write this article again.
We might have had
So,
right.
so go to consumerreports.org. I don't want to give away too much. Go and look
story.
at it.
It's really well done.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of great examples.
History.
A lot of great history. We talked to some amazing people. There are interviews with people who started the crash test program in the 70s. So really interesting stuff. So moving on a bit, I wish we could talk about that.
I know.
That
We could go
important
all
stuff
day
all
on
day.
this, right?
But we
my nerd
have,
talk.
we have a bunch of new cars at our track.
Yeah.
One of them, I have some very complex feelings about this car.
Oh my gosh.
It's the Lincoln Corsair. It's a crossover SUV.
Yeah.
It's based on a similar platform as the sort of same underpinnings as the Ford Escape.
Right.
Cost ours, it starts in the 30s, but ours is the reserve all-wheel drive, so it's almost $50,000 what we paid for it. 250 horsepower, 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, the similar one to the Ford Escape. 8-speed automatic, optional all-wheel drive. I have my thoughts about this car, but I'll withhold.
Okay.
What do you? I'll sit back. What do you think? What do you think?
So, like in the borrowed Escape with the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, I was very impressed with the Corsair drivability. I thought it was good on the highway, good around town. I think the size is lovely. Again, I go back to, I have these man-sized 15-year-olds that I take to school every day. I think I say that every episode. They were
60th percentile, 70th percentile males.
Right, I do. There you go. But they were comfortable. The only difference is I wasn't too thrilled with some of the Lincoln cues inside.
Like what?
In that it had the push-button gear selector.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
I prefer, again, I'm saying surprisingly, I preferred the rotary gear selector in the Ford, and it had the seat adjustments on the door.
Like a Mercedes
like
style.
a Mercedes, right? That's what I wrote right here, Mercedes-like.
I must have tried to adjust my seat like 3 times on the side before I figured out where they were.
I just find it so much more intuitive to have them on the seat as opposed to the door. In general, be it Mercedes, Lincoln. So I actually liked those smaller items, if you will. I liked the Ford style better than the Lincoln style, but overall, some great little SUV.
That Lincoln interior, though, Lincoln's interiors have because some Ford interiors we've seen have been not great.
Right.
And
Basic.
it's like a whole other world in there.
Yeah.
It was very, very plush, very fancy.
Yeah.
Yes. I got to say, I like sedans. This is the sort of first crossover that we've had that I've thought I could see myself in this.
This is why you're torn.
Yeah.
This is like a big deal for you.
This is, and there's a
You
hybrid
only
version
pretty
that's
much
coming.
drive sedans on the weekends.
Exactly. So, so the other thing about that, and this is like a little thing, and it's not just in this car. Lincoln has this automatic climate control that has different levels. I think it is the coolest thing in the world because you put it on automatic and it's really hot outside and it's trying to cool it down and it blows really loud. So then you change the fan and then you lose your automatic. This one has 3 levels for the automatic, so you can make it basically loud, medium, or soft.
Oh, I don't think I noticed that.
I think it's genius.
I often, to your point, adjust the automatic climate control just because I'm annoyed with the fan speed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This solves that.
It's not the temperature the problem. It's the fan noise. So you're
like
right. It's
the
all
fan
that.
blowing
That's a
me
great
that
feature.
much.
This is incredible. What do you think of the car? You spent some decent time with it, right?
I took it for the weekend, and that was nice because I got to drive around it, with my son, and
he's in a car seat, right?
he's in a car seat, and
So
he's in a
Emily's
big
son
one.
is 2. Mine is the big 15-year-old.
Yeah,
Right?
mine is one of the pediatric dummies.
He's very smart.
Yes. So I have a big car seat too because he's in a convertible right now, and so it's rear facing. And even with it rear facing, like I had to bring one of our DC colleagues to the airport, and he could sit in front of Micah comfortably.
Yes.
So like there was still plenty of room, and then my husband and I kind of take turns in the back seat. So like even when we were back there, the rear seat comfort was pretty good, plenty of leg room. My husband was quite thrilled with the fact there's seat warmers in the back. He was like, look, you'll love it back here. But the other thing that I really liked that I'm not sure if anyone else really got to experience it is I like the Ford rear seatbelt reminder system. So what happened was we were at the store and it was pouring over the weekend. And so I dropped them off, at the front, my husband and my son, and my husband was driving. And so when I unbuckled in the back while the car was still running, it automatically started dinging him in the front. And I got out of the car, went into the front to go park after dropping them. And it was waiting for me to acknowledge that the rear seat buckle had been undone. And so I really like that because a lot of the belt minders that I've seen, they might remind you at first, but then they kind of go away. And so it's really easy to forget that it even happened or whatever. But I like that this had some sort of it required a response from the driver. So it helps you kind of be a little bit more responsible for your passengers, even just in reminding them, which, I mean, right now Micah can't get himself out of his car seat. But if he was older and a booster,
And buckling themselves.
or all of your man teens that you take around with you, you can be put your belt back on.
Yep.
That's really interesting. That's definitely something I didn't notice.
Yep.
You mean your cat doesn't ride in the rear?
No, my cat does not. Actually, she does, but she
buckle in,
does not have opposable thumbs, so it'd be very difficult to.
I guess
but
that's the problem.
It's very interesting. I mean, the Corsair, I found it really drivable. Drivability was great. I found it. I took it through some kind of windy roads, and handling was
smooth,
really smooth and stable. Smooth ride, stable handling. It feels to me. I mean, it feels like a different car to me than the Escape. It takes the good things about the Escape, but it doesn't feel like a Ford that someone has badge engineered into a Lincoln. This is like its own thing.
Right.
So
8-speed automatic, they haven't always been implemented well. These multi-speed automatics in this one, I think, is pretty good.
So I'm interested to find out. We'll have all the information when we're done testing it soon.
Right.
And on our road tests. But you can read our first drive at consumerreports.org. So, we've been talking a lot. I think it's time to go to you. The questions you have sent to us at TalkingCars@iCloud.com. We've got so many. We're trying to get to all of them. And we're going to start with one from DK. And DK asks, how do anti-whiplash front seats affect rear seat occupants, infants in child seats, or children in booster seats, especially in compact sedans or SUVs where there's maybe only 30 inches between the front and the rear headrests? I'm pretty tall, so my seat is always set to its rearmost position. Emily, I think this one might be for you.
How did he know I would be here? So I think first I just want to address what an anti-whiplash seat is. So probably the most common one that people know about is the WHIPS system by Volvo. It was implemented back in the late 1990s. And so the way that the WHIPS system works, right? You have these front seat backs that move with the driver, right? So remember, in a rear impact, you're going to move into the impact. So you're actually moving backwards, right? So it moves with the driver or the front seat occupant, but in a controlled fashion.
Right.
So it's not like it's going to, like, front seat backs that don't have this device might do what we've seen in some things on the news, right, where those seat backs collapse and there's a lot of movement.
Right.
But
That's different. That's a failure of the seat
Exactly.
back,
So
not
this is totally different. This is controlled motion and it's limited motion, right? And it really works best with those pretensioners in your seatbelt because the seatbelt pretensions helps keep the occupant against the seat back so that together you're moving. And I think of it in the same way that your load limiter works in a frontal impact. So a load limiter on your seatbelt, right? It allows for a controlled amount of forward movement, but again, it's controlled. So in that way, when you want to answer DK's question, I think that really, because both your front and rear seat occupants are experiencing the exact same physics, right? They're both going to be moving into the crash. So your rear seat occupant is also going to be moving into the crash. Now, I think that would probably be there's less possibility for interaction if your child is forward facing or in a booster seat and they're right behind you.
Interaction meaning the seat back hitting.
Right, interaction between your front occupant and rear occupant. So if you have a child who's like rear facing and you're the only front seat occupant, it's just you as the driver, don't put them directly behind you. If that's something you're concerned about, I would put them like on the passenger side. Because they're closer to you, right? Even though they're also going to be moving into the impact, just if you wanted additional peace of mind. So there isn't actually any current research that I could find about the impact on rear seat occupants. So that could be a really great space for people to
study.
Future article.
Right. Rear seats, there isn't a ton of research on rear seat crash testing.
Yeah.
Cool. I learned so much.
See that?
That's the whole point of working here.
Question 2 is from Nathaniel in Arlington, Mass, which I drive through every Monday morning.
Hi, Nancy. Wave to Nathaniel.
And every Thursday night, I drive down, get off Route 2 in Arlington every week. So hi, Talking Cars. Hi, Nathaniel. Is it true that BMW will charge a monthly fee for using Apple CarPlay after the first year or two? Is this a new bad trend that other automakers will follow? Yes. So I think so. So it is true. BMW's doing this. Remember when you first got like a subscription service, Netflix or Hulu or something, and there were like 2 out there, and now there are like 15. You have to subscribe to every one, and it's more expensive than cable. I think the same exact thing is going to happen. Subscription models are the way to just sort of squeeze a little extra money out of consumers. It's anti-consumer. It's terrible. You think it's a safety problem.
Right. Tell us what you really think, Keith. No, but yeah, I think CarPlay, Android Auto, anything that integrates that activity in a safer way is a safety benefit.
Rather than using your phone.
Them charged for it.
Yeah, it's awful. It's a race to the bottom.
Opting back to the phone.
Yeah, and we're going to be loudly out there saying, please don't do this. We've already seen a couple automakers in Europe are starting to do it. Oh, I'm sure it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's awful. All right. Next question's from Edie. Hello, Talking Cars team. Appreciate your work and have been a loyal fan. Somehow the years have crept up and I'm now a senior driver with a challenging lumbar spine. I have a 2004 Honda Accord V6 and I'm in need of a new ride. My ride's no longer comfortable for my current body and it's definitely not fuel efficient. These days I'm among the many who battle traffic in LA and I would like to be driving something safe, fun, and not too big. Most of the time it's just me, 5'6", with long legs and my 12-year-old dog who I often have to lift into the Honda. I was considering, and this is a whole list, a Subaru Crosstrek, the Prius Prime, regular Prius, or pay the big bucks and get an Audi A4 or an all-road. I like the idea of a hatchback, but I'm flexible. Do you have any suggestions for me? And Edie told us a great story about driving a Porsche 911.
Right.
It was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
Great. So thanks, Edie. Yeah. I hope you have some questions. What do you think? I'll start on this side.
So I do like the Accord Hybrid. I know she's in an Accord, doesn't really love it right now. But in terms of getting good fuel economy in LA, I asked our expat from LA and he's like, well, even if when you're on the highway, you're basically like driving in the city.
Freeway.
So like, city mileage seems to be important there. The other vehicle that I also really like is the Cruise Diesel. When we had that, I thought it did really well for giving me great fuel economy. I thought it was pretty comfortable. easy access to be able to put your dog in and out. I mean, I was carting my car seat and Micah in and out of it all the time. So I thought that was a good pick. But, to each their own, I guess. So we'll see.
And that's kind of where I am. So seat, which we see in our ratings all the time because we have people of different stature and sizes and all that, is very personal preference.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fit and sometimes you don't. So I think I would say to Edie, it may be less about the car and more about the adjustability. So when you're picking whatever it is you pick, and I do have a pick for her, is make sure it has a power adjusted driver's seat so that you can tailor, tilt, seat back, lumbar.
And if you start to get sore, you can change it while you're driving. Yeah.
If it starts to bother your back as you're sitting in LA traffic, you can tweak it a little bit. And that would be my advice, regardless of what you pick. Even seat heaters can make you more comfortable.
Oh, yes.
Maybe she doesn't need them much in LA. But of all the ones she suggested, I absolutely think spend the money. Our front seat comfort scores on the Audi A4 are very, very high.
Yeah.
Subaru, not known for super comfortable seats, a little flat, a little firm. Go with the Audi A4 or all-road. Or even, you might want to look at a Q3 for the dog and access there. So absolutely, Audi has the best seat of all that you mentioned.
I kind of got an undercurrent, and I like your picks because they're sedans, but they're roomy, and they're much roomier than they used to be in 2004.
Yeah.
I like your pick because it's
Because it's a great car and it has a great seat. Right.
But I kind of got this undercurrent from Edie that she was talking about fuel economy a lot, and that was a thing that I think she cares about. So my pick, if you don't mind going for something a little older, meaning like a year old.
Right.
You can get a Lexus CT200H, which is a sort of smallish hybrid, but very, very comfortable, under $23,000. You can also get an Audi A3 e-tron, which is a plug-in hybrid. It's 100% Audi. It's fun to drive, but it gets you that like electric range from plug-in,
right?
And then it gets really good fuel economy when you're driving.
Right.
Both of these cars have been discontinued, along with the Cruise Diesel, but if you want, you can get them certified pre-owned. I found a bunch in the LA area. So
Good.
Thanks for the question, Edie. Maybe we'll see you at the LA Auto Show.
Coming up.
Yeah. Question 4 from Shane. I love listening to y'all. My only problem with the podcast is that it is not daily. Unfortunately, we have other things we have to do. But
thank you, Shane.
Yeah. My family's growing. We're looking to replace one of our 2 sedans. Having an SUV would be ideal due to the added utility, convenience, especially since we'll be having a baby soon. Congratulations. We're looking at used compact SUVs around $10,000. We like the Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V, Mazda CX-5, the best, but are open to other options. Which would you recommend for a good blend of reliability, comfort, safety, and utility? This is tough. This is a tough number. I put like a sort of delineator there for 80,000 miles for something that didn't get marginal or poor on crash tests, because that's, I think, most important. Decent reliability from our scores, and newer than, say, a 2011, because then you'll get your electronic stability control and the safety things. I found, if you push it up to like 11K, you can get a 2013 CR-V, which is the second year after a redesign, after a major redesign. That would be what I would choose. I would try and push it up just a little bit to get that. You can find them, not a ton out there. And I would kind of stay away from older versions of the RAV4 and CR-V that might cost less than that. The other thing is that you can get a 2012 Outback Subaru. Yeah, what do you think?
So I did find it challenging to hit that 10K mark, and I was skewing to the safety side. So I also put here, if you guys can stretch it, Shane, a little bit. I was actually up maybe like 14K, a 2015 or later CR-V. I was going safety a little bit more in that's when you could get optional forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking, either a 2015 or later CR-V or a 2015. I had Forester, Subaru Forester. You had Outback, I had Forester. Again, highly related, reliable cars. Those 2 were my picks.
And Emily, I know you talked a little about Sportage Escape, some of the cars that he'd also mentioned that we cut for time from his question.
Yeah, so I looked into all of them and more just not looking quite at the price so much, but really just looking at, well, if you have a baby coming, congratulations, once again, you're going to be installing car seats. And so I looked at it more in terms of, like, to Jen's point and your point, which did well in crash safety testing, which come with these additional advanced safety features as standard and not necessarily optional,
Right.
and then which have good child seat fit. So unfortunately, like the Sportage, it's okay. It did all right with being able to install the car seats. You might find that those lower anchors, which is probably what you're going to use in the beginning to install that infant seat base, they were a little bit tough to get to. And depending on whether or not you want to be able to put the baby in the middle, that belt installation was kind of hard in the middle also. Same thing with the Escape. So honestly, of the vehicles that he suggested that they were interested in, the CX-5 is my pick. And that's purely based off of preference and my ability to be able to install car seats well, the amount of space that you get in the cargo area. Like, be prepared. You're going to be packing like you're going for the apocalypse every time you go somewhere. So you need a lot of room. So when Micah was small, I really liked being able to take the CX-5 from work because I found that I can install car seats, it's safe, it's easy to drive, the controls are easy, and there was tons of room.
Right.
One thing that's interesting you might not know is in our full road tests online, there is a whole section that talks about how easy it is to install child seats. And
I do that.
Thank you, Emily.
you do that. And
that.
you're not going to get that from most other reviews out there. So Shane, good luck. Congratulations. Anyone else who has a question for us, please send it to TalkingCars@iCloud.com. Send your video questions to us. We love video questions. We didn't have any this week. Check out the show notes to find out where these articles that we have referenced so many times. There's been a fact-packed episode. You're going to find them all in there in the show notes. So thanks for watching. We'll talk cars again soon.